Hello, my name is Mrs. Epps, and today's video lesson is going to be on telling time to the hour. Telling time to the hour. And if you look at the picture that we have here, you will see here that I have two types of clocks, okay? I have what you call this clock right here. It's called an analog clock, all right? And this clock is called a digital clock, and you're going to learn about both of these types of clocks in today's lesson, okay? So let's go over our learning goal. And our learning goal is I will tell time to the hour. Repeat that after me, okay? I'm going to say it again, and I want you to repeat it after me, okay? I will tell time to the hour. Repeat that learning goal. Good job. All right, so before we go any further, I would like to ask you a question. And that question is, why do we need to know how to tell time? Think about that for a second. Talk about it to the people that may be around you. Did you say so that we'll know what time to get up in the morning? We need to know what time to get up in the morning. If we can't tell time, how will we be able to look at a clock and know that we need to be up at 8 o'clock in the morning? If I don't know that's the time I need to be up and I can't read it on my clock, then that's really going to be a challenge for me to be able to get through my day or even to get my day started. So we need to know how to tell time because we need to know what time to be to school, because school is going to be in at some point. We're going to eventually go back to school. Okay? You need to know what time you're going to go to bed at night so that you can get a good night's rest and be ready for school, right? When we do come back together. So telling time is a very, 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 very important task that you need to be able to learn how to do. And that's our goal today. That's my goal today for you, is to help you to be able to do that, okay? So we're going to go to a page where I'm going to show you, we're going to talk about like the parts of the clock. That's important to know, okay? I'm going to slide me over to the side here. All right, and down. All right. So now this is an analog clock. If you recall, I showed that to you when we first got started, okay? And this type of clock is called an analog clock. Say that, please. And now I'm pointing to the face of the clock, okay? And if you look here, you'll see that we have numbers. I'm sorry, I'm on top of it. I'm sorry. I'm going to start here. See my cursor's going around the clock? And it goes from 1 all the way around up to 12, okay? All right, so it starts here at 1 and it goes all the way around. All right, all the way around to 12, okay? So you can see here that the arrow is pointing to numbers, so you're going to see numbers on the clock, okay? And on our clock, we're going to have two hands, okay? We're going to have an hour hand and we're going to have a minute hand. Now, the hour hand is the little hand, and that's going to make sense in a minute when I show you a clock that has the hour hand on it, okay? But we're just going to talk about what they look like right now. So your smallest hand is going to be your little hand, which is your hour hand. Now this hand is called the minute hand. And the minute hand is the big hand, okay? So remember that. On the analog clock, you have an hour hand and a minute hand. Your hour hand is going to be your little hand, and your minute hand is going to be your big hand, okay? Let's go to our next page. All right, so we'll come back to the digital clock. Let's stick with the analog clock right now. Okay, so now here is the actual analog clock, okay? And if you look there, we're just talking about the hands, okay? You see that? You see that minute hand is this hand right here is the long hand or the big hand, and your hour hand is your short hand. That's what I was talking about. That's the way it looks, okay? That's how it looks on that analog clock. All right. So This is your analog clock. What kind of clock is this? Did you say analog clock? You were exactly right. Okay, so now let's go back to this type of clock, okay? Now this type of clock is called a digital clock. And this is the clock that we see often now. We see it a lot, okay? And when you have a digital clock, you have two areas on the clock. You have the hour side on the clock, and you also have the minute side. And then now I'm going to draw inside of here. I'm just going to draw some things inside of here, okay? So that you'll know what it looks like. And you probably already have one of these clocks in your house next to your bed. Or mom and dad has one next to their bed, okay? So if you look here, like I said, this is the hour side, and then this is the minute side, okay? Now, sometimes, let me erase this. This side may say something like this. It just depends. Let me get it erased first for you, okay? Sometimes this may have different numbers on it. That's okay, because we're going to deal with that at another time, okay? Because I want you to understand that you will not always see this. It's not going to always look like this. You'll have different numbers over here sometime, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to tell time to the hour on the analog clock first, and then we'll come back and learn how to tell time on the digital clock, okay? So let's go forward, and let's give us a little bit of a time to come up. Okay, so now whenever you tell time to the hour, your minute hand or that long hand, let's use a different number. Your minute hand is always going to point to 12, okay? And when it points to 12, you're going to say o'clock, okay? Now your hour hand is pointing to 4. So how would you read this clock? I would say 4 o'clock, okay? And actually, here's a digital time down here, okay? Let me move me around. I'll move me up here. There we go. So if you look back again, whenever that, let me move it over just a little bit. Let's get it over. So I'll move it over a little bit more. Whenever that, there we go. Okay. So whenever this long hand or minute hand is pointed to 12, we're going to say o'clock. So our hour hand is pointing to 4. So I would read this time as 4 o'clock. Okay, say that with me. 4 o'clock, because it's getting ready to change to a different time. Okay. So now let me lock this in place. Lock in place. Let's see. Lock in place so that we can't move it around. All right. So now let's go. I'm going to set another time for you. Let's look at this one. This is 7 o'clock because our hour hand is pointing to 7 and our long hand or minute hand is pointing to 12. And whenever this minute hand is pointed to 12, we're going to say o'clock. This is what I mean when I say tell time to the hour. Okay? This is exactly what I'm talking about. If you say 7 o'clock, you're telling time. Whenever you see that long hand on the 12, you have to say o'clock, and that means you're telling time to the hour. Okay? All right. So let's do a different time. Okay, so now there we go. This is 12 o'clock because the hour hand and the minute hand are both pointing to 12. And what did I say that we say whenever that long hand or minute hand is pointing to 12? I said we say o'clock. Okay? So this is 12 o'clock. Okay? All right. Let's do another time. Now here we have 3 o'clock. Our hour hand is pointing to 3 and our minute hand is pointed 12. And whenever our minute hand is pointed 12, we always say o'clock. 3 o'clock. Don't forget, our learning goal is to tell time to the hour. All right? Okay, let's come around here. And we're going to move this back around a little bit. Okay. All right. Oops. All right. So now, whoops. This clock says 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. Whenever we say o'clock, or whenever that minute hand is pointed to 12, we're going to say o'clock. That means we're telling time to the hour. And this says 8 o'clock. Okay? Let's look at this one. All right. Now this time says 6 o'clock because our hour hand and our minute hand is pointed to 12 and our hour hand is pointed to 6. So now this clock says 6 o'clock. And whenever you say o'clock, that means you're telling time to the hour. Okay? 6 o'clock. Okay? So you're gonna have fun with this because you're gonna look at your clock in the house and you're gonna when this hour hand points to 12 and whatever number the hour hand is pointing to, you're going to be able to say 2 o'clock. Okay? All right? Okay, so now let's go on to what we haven't done. Let's try this one. Now, this is 10 o'clock. Why is it 10 o'clock? Because our hour hand is pointed 10 and our minute hand is pointed 12. So we read this time as 10 o'clock. And whenever we say o'clock, that means that we're telling time to the hour, okay? All right, let's try another one. Now this says 1 o'clock. Why? Because our hour hand is pointing to the 1 and our minute hand is pointing to 12. If you recall, our hour hand is the shortest hand. And let me move this over just a tad bit. And our long hand is the minute hand, okay? All right, then, so let's spend some time talking about the digital clock. Let's go back to that clock. And if you recall, I wrote some numbers here, okay? So I'm going to write the number 8 on this side. And on this side, I'm going to write 2 zeros. This is our hour, and these are our minutes, okay? Whenever you see the 2 zeros there, you're going to say o'clock. 8 o'clock. Easy peasy, right? This means that whenever you say o'clock, what did I say that you were telling time to? The hour, right? 8 o'clock. Let's change it around a little bit. This would be 9 o'clock. See? Whenever you see those 2 zeros on that digital clock, you're going to say o'clock, 9 o'clock. This is your hour side. This is your minute side. Okay? 9 o'clock. All right? Let's erase. I'm going to put some more numbers here. This would read 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. Okay? This is our hour side. This is our minute side. Okay? What kind of clock is this? Did you say a digital clock? Yes. This is a digital clock. This kind of clock is called a digital clock. Okay? So now let's go to the next screen. I need to go back. Oh, no, I'm sorry. There we go. Okay, so now here is an actual digital clock that corresponds to the time that we have on our analog clock, right? And if you recall, I said there's our digital clock down here, but we weren't going to deal with it right at that time. So now we're going to deal with it, okay? So let's look at this time. We look at our digital clock. See, this says 3 o'clock. And these numbers here are just seconds, okay? We won't deal with seconds in this lesson. But see, it says 3 o'clock because whenever we see the 2 zeros, what do we say? O'clock. You said it right. So we see both of our clocks on this page. We see our analog clock on this page as well as our digital clock, okay? All right. So before we go on, let's do a little practice. We're going to do a little practice, okay? And pull this screen down. Put me over here to the side. And here, let me do some clicking here. We have a scenario card, okay? And it says here that Mary Beth is getting ready to go to work. She leaves for work at 8. What? Did you say o'clock? Yes. She leaves for work at 8 o'clock a.m. Now, we'll deal with the a.m. at another time. But we know that she has to be to work at 8 o'clock. And it says here, show this time on the clock. Okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the time on here. Now, you can point to the screen and kind of draw the hands just with your finger to see if we come with the same time, okay? So you know that my hour hand is going to be my short hand. Oops, let's do it a little bit better. And then my minute hand is going to be my long hand. There it is, 8 o'clock. Did you draw your clock like that? Very good if you did, okay? Now, one thing that I want you to pay attention to is this. Do you see this right here? And mom and dad, if you're close by, please copy this. Copy this. You're going to copy this like this. See how I just right-clicked on my mouse and just press, just right-click and release, because this is a clock that your child's going to need to be able to move the hands around on the clock along with me. So if you go over here, let me open up another browser here and paste, do like find Control V on your clock. You see it comes right in there. That's something different. We didn't need that. Sorry about that. But what you want to get here is this website right here, bizknows.com demos clock. Okay, let me go back over here. It's right here. Okay, and you can pause this video and write this down, or like I said, copy and paste it into the browser, which goes right here, and then your child will get this clock and they'll be able to move it around like I'm doing right now. And that's what I want them to be able to have. So you can pause it and go and get that and then come back to me, okay? In the meantime, I'm going to keep on going because I know that you're going to return to me. All right. So let's go back over here. We did that scenario card. So let's go up here to this one. And it says here, Mary Beth takes a break from work at 10 o'clock a.m. or 10 a.m. But it's actually 10 o'clock, okay? Same thing. Okay, and it says to show this time on the clock. All right, so if you go to your clock, this clock right here, you can go ahead and move your hands around while I'm over here. And I'm going to draw the time in. Okay, and I want to see, hopefully we come up with the same, hopefully our clocks look the same, okay? Is that what your clock looks like? If it is, you were exactly right. All right, 10 o'clock. All right, you did a very good job with that. Okay, so now we're going to do some more practice. And if you see here, this says time to the hour, okay? Time to the hour. And what kind of clocks are these? Did you say analog clocks? If you did, you were right. These are analog clocks, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to read the time on the clock, and then I'll give you the answer. Okay, so here we go. What time does this clock say? Did you say 12 o'clock? If you did, you were right. Let's move to the next clock. What time is it? Did you say 1 o'clock? If you did, you were correct. What time is it? Did you say 2 o'clock? If you did, you were correct. Oh, you're working hard. Here we are. We're going to our next clock. What time is it? Did you say 3 o'clock? Very good. Here's our next clock. What time is it? Did you say 4 o'clock? Very good. What time is it? Did you say 5 o'clock? Very good. What time is it? Let me get my button so you know where I'm right here. What time is it? Did you say 6 o'clock? If you said 6 o'clock, how did you know that? Did you say, I know that because the hour hand is pointing to the 6 and the minute hand is pointing to the 12. And whenever the minute hand is pointing to the 12, I always say o'clock. Very good. All right, here we go. What time does this clock say? Did you say 7 o'clock? Very good. What time does this clock say? This one. Did you say 8 o'clock? Very good. Move it up. All right, here we go. What time does this clock say? Did you say 9 o'clock? Very good. What time is it on this clock? Did you say 10 o'clock? Very good. All right, here's our next clock. What time is it? Did you say 11 o'clock? Very good if you did. Okay, you worked really hard on that activity. And what kind of clocks are these? Did you say these are analog clocks? What are we telling time to today? Did you say the hour? Yes, we're telling time to the hour today. All right, let's go back over here because now we're going to go to our next type of clock. What kind of clocks are these? Did you say digital clocks? You're exactly right. Now I want to point out, whenever you say o'clock, this is what the words look like. That's how you spell it. O, and then you put an apostrophe there, C-L-O-C-K. Okay? What time is it on this digital clock? Did you say 12 o'clock? So in this box, we would type 12. Because this is just, let me move me out of the way here. There we go. Okay, so this is just another way of saying this right here, which is o'clock. You're actually writing it out. So if you had to write it out, you can write it this way, or you can say 12 and then spell it out. O apostrophe C-L-O-C-K. Okay? All right, what time does this say? You say 8 o'clock? So over in this box, we're going to type 8. All right. All right. What time does it say? Did you say 7 o'clock? Because you know whenever we see the 2 zeros, what are we going to say? O'clock, right? Very good. So what number do we need to put here? Did you say 7? You're right, because this is 7 o'clock. All right, so let's put our 7 there. All right. Okay, what time does it say on this clock? Did you say 11 o'clock? You're exactly right. What time? So what numbers are we going to put here? What number are we going to put here? 11, yes. And let's move it around. There we go. Right there. Very good, okay? And what kind of clocks are these? Did you say digital? Yes, these are digital clocks, okay? All right, good job. So now let's go back to our interactive clock, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call out some times, and I want you to pull up this clock as well, because I'm going to let you show the time on your clock. Of course, you're going to show it to your parent or whoever the adult is in your home, and then you're going to check it with mine. So your first time that you're going to need to show them is 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. So take your time to show them 7 o'clock. And now I'm going to do it. Does your clock look like mine? If it does, make your clock look like mine. 7 o'clock. Now, if for some reason your parent cannot bring up this clock, I am going to attach a clock that you can really make one at home if you have something called a brad. You can actually make one at home, and I can include that with this lesson, okay? So in case if you need to make it, and you will still have a clock if you can't pull this one up. So I'll make sure that I include one, okay? All right. The next time is going to be 10 o'clock, okay? 10 o'clock. So show your parent 10 o'clock, and then I'm going to do it. Okay, here is 10 o'clock. Is that what you have? If you do, that's excellent. Okay, and you see our digital time is right here. See it? 10 o'clock. Digital time, analog clock. We're telling time on both clocks, on the digital clock as well as the analog clock. Okay, here's our next time, 1 o'clock. Show me 1 o'clock on your clock, 1 o'clock. All right, I'm going to do it on mine. Is that what you have, 1 o'clock? Very good. All right, our next time is going to be 4 o'clock. So move your hands around and show your parent 4 o'clock. Okay, now I'm going to do it. 4 o'clock. Very good. All right, is that what you have? Good job. All right, our next time is going to be 5 o'clock. All right, and really, there we go. Is that what you have? Does your clock look like mine? If it doesn't, then make it look like mine. Now let's read it. 5 o'clock, okay? So one of the things I want to do while we're here, okay, because that was our last problem, let's go back and review, okay? So remember I said whenever that minute hand is pointed to 12, what are you going to say? O'clock. This is your minute hand. Right here is your minute hand. And this is going to be your hour hand. okay? This is your analog clock, and what kind of clock is this? This is your digital clock. This is your hour side, and that's your minute side. So whenever you see the 2 zeros here, you're going to say o'clock, 5 o'clock. And remember that I said our learning goal was to tell time to the what? To the hour. So today you learned how to tell time to the hour. I hope that you have enjoyed our video lesson today. And please practice telling time to the hour. Look at your digital clock if you have one in your home or your analog clock. And whenever you see that minute hand point to the 12th, what are you going to say? O'clock. And then, you know that says o'clock, and then whatever number your hour hand is pointing to, you just need to say it. And in this case, it would have been 5 o'clock. I've enjoyed being with you today, and I'll see you the next time in the next video lesson.